I used to be a boss. So this is a Korean manhwa about a tower boss that becomes human. So it's your typical Korean gate manhwa, but it's not anything like too crazy, right? The twist is just that the tower boss becomes a human and he's just working on getting his powers back. And I would definitely recommend this just because like it's just entertaining, but I wouldn't like recommend it in terms of like story, right? It's not anything special, and the art's pretty decent, but it's not amazing. So yeah, I think you should give it a read because of the twist, but it's not like anything spectacular. Reborn Ranker. So our main protagonist used to be super strong. He gets kicked out of the hero party because his class turns out to have a low growth ceiling. Gets demoted from master rank, so he's really depressed and stuff like that. And while the hero party is out of the country, and a calamity happens, and he tries to stop it, so he fights this time dragon, which is just crazy, right? So when he fights the dragon, he kind of gets this item that helps rewind time. And so with this new chance that he gets that life, and he vows to become the strongest. So the plot is pretty generic, and the themes are pretty generic. It's really similar to solo leveling in a lot of ways, right? The guy goes back in time, kind of gets a redo, uh, in that sense, and is able to become super strong as a result. Obviously, this is different because he's going back in time, but it's very similar in so many like themes, right? There's like the serial killer, there's the being the underdog. Everyone thinks he's weak, but he's actually super strong. Stuff like that, right? Similar to solo leveling in a lot of ways. And this story probably would have been more popular if it had better art. The art is not very good. Like if it had solo leveling level art, this series would be really popular. It's very easy to understand. There's not anything crazy going on, and you kind of get this underdog story, which is nice. And like he has this unique class, and there's a bunch of different classes, right? So it's more dynamic than solo leveling because there's much more variety that can happen. Like you can still level up and you can get stronger and things like that. So I do actually recommend reading this if you like Korean gate manhwas, portals, and whatnot. This is a good story. Just the art is like it's okay, but if the art was like 10 out of 10, the story would like propel itself much further. Revenge of the Iron-Blooded Swordhound. So this series is very similar to Swordmaster's Youngest Son, and this particular series, this particular manhwa, is about him getting revenge on his family. So he was born in a branch family, which meant that he was basically like fodder essentially. So he went on espionage missions, etc., assassinations, and all the dirty work essentially. And after all his years of service, he's killed because he knew too much. So after he's killed, he reincarnates, and because of this reincarnation, he takes the chance to go, I have another life. I'm going to kill the head of the family because obviously I lived my life as a hound, right? And hence the name. I lived my life as a dog, so this time I'm gonna live my life to the fullest. And so he does that. Since he already knows the future, he goes after all the items and everything that would make him super OP. It's kind of like if you replay a game and you already know everything, right? So you almost speed run it, right? So he's basically speed running a lot of what he's doing. So he's super OP in the beginning, like crazy OP. And the family is just as crazy, like in Young Swordmaster's Youngest Son, right? Like just like the first trial he had to do was like go through this valley of swords and then try to swim in through this river, and he's like 1 years old. Like it's like completely bonkers, right? Like that's why it reminds me so much of sorry, excuse me, master sword master's youngest son, is because the family's so crazy. And it's super interesting and super good, because we kind of like get a little foreshadowing of the future, right? So there's gonna be like demons and stuff later on, and that just makes it super interesting because we already kind of we're seeing the trajectory, but we don't know the details, right? That's what makes it so interesting. So it's like we kind of want to see the details, because like, how is he gonna get his revenge, right? Because he's just playing the game, but he already knows what's gonna happen, right? And he's super crazy. Like, the main character is super crazy, which is kind of a gets very obvious when we get through the series, and also like why he's so crazy. Because first chapters, you're just like, this family is absolutely crazy, right? And we see through the politics that not every family in this series is like that. So this series has a war, politics, demons, clans, has pretty much everything you would see in a typical fantasy. And I kind of like the use of the type of weapons and things like that as well. It's super interesting. I want to go too deep to it, because we haven't seen the whole combat system within this manhwa yet. But so far, it's looking really, really good. The art is really good. I think that carries a lot of it as well. That's kind of the thing I've seen with a lot of manhwas that get super popular, is like the art carries it. Like, the story can be mediocre, but the art really carries it. And it kind of reminds me of like a lot of anime, right? Like, if the anime story sucks, the art has to carry the story, right? Oshinoko. So I'm not going to get too deep into this, but I've been reading this series on my YouTube channel so far, and I'm really enjoying it. But not because of the reasons you might think. So I initially wasn't interested in this series because it was kind of like idol. I saw the idol stuff, and I was like, I'm not really interested in, like, those series that talk about the entertainment industry, and like they try to like be idols or whatever. That's kind of what I thought it was, like some type of series where they were gonna like go through the entertainment industry, like step by step, like how to become an idol, etc., stuff like that. I was kind of like, I'm not really interested in that stuff, so I never like uh tried to read this series because of that. And my friend was really talking about this series, and this series started blowing up because of the anime. So I decided to give it another shot, or not give it another shot, but actually give it a shot. Like, I saw it before it got popular, like super popular, but I was like, reincarnation and like an idol, like that just sounds silly, right? To me, excuse me. And so I never picked it up, but I never picked it up. But now I have, and I do enjoy it, but not for the reasons like I said earlier. I like it because of the fact it's about reincarnation, which is something I really enjoy, and two, the mystery aspect of it. And I I really enjoyed that aspect because there's so much religious symbolism going on. There's so much numerology going on, and just symbolism in general. And I really enjoy that, analyzing these type of stories, because it just makes the experience so much more unique. It makes it so much deeper, and so that makes it so that you're enjoying your food more, right? Like, you can eat your food and just enjoy it, right? But if you slow down and try to like um, taste all the flavors that are within the food, then you're really getting a much deeper experience, right? And so that's kind of like why I like analyzing stories. So this series has basically stimulated my brain, I guess. But of course, not everyone enjoys this type of analytical reading, right? I totally understand that. It reminds you of school, and it's like, well, I just want to enjoy the series, right? Like, I don't want to think too much about it. But for me, that's kind of what has made Oshinoko so enjoyable, is the mystery and me analyzing the text and kind of like seeing how the art interacts with the story, and how that like foreshadows certain things going on, and like that really made me and that really was like apparent in the first like couple chapters. That really made me invested in reading it really quickly, and that was just super enjoyable for me. So I do highly recommend this series, just because it's pretty unique in some of the aspects, right? The idol and reincarnating it to Japan, right? Usually the reincarnation happens to another world, but this time it's happening again, right? And because of all the religious symbolism, it's really building up to something else that's going to happen later on. I'm assuming. So yeah, I think you should definitely give this a shot.